What's up guys, this is a new story. If you want the next part, tell me in the comments. Summary: Naruto died at the Valley of the End, at the hands of his best friend Sasuke Uchiha. Now revived by Madara, Naruto will complete the Eye of the Moon plan and bring peace to the world. Enjoy Chapter 1: The Betrayal. The Valley of the End, an ancient battleground to two gods of shinobi, also a place where ideals clashed. The valley was like a large scar upon the land, a titanic clash that shook the boundaries of the ninja world and beyond. Madara Uchiha engaged his old friend and rival Hashirama Senju, the first Hokage, in a battle to the death to decide who would be the Hokage and lead the village of their dreams. The dreams they created as children. Armed with the power of the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and the Kiwabi no Kitsune as his pet, Madara could very well win if he was battling a normal opponent. Hashirama Senju was known as the god of shinobi, the strongest man in the world. The Hokage was known for having a powerful Keki Genkai, the wood release by simultaneously using water release and earth release. Was the Senju leader able to create forests and jungles in a barren landscape? The wood release also allowed him to restrain and control Baju, tailed beasts, chakra monsters, whatever you want to call them. The Kiwabi no Kitsune, one of the non-Baju and the most powerful among them, was used as a tool by a human with amazing visual prowess. If there was one thing the Kiwabi hated, it was humans. If there was one thing the Kiwabi despised, it was the Sharingan, the damn copy wheel eye. Put these two together and you have something the Kiwabi loathed with all its being. The giant fox with its massive 9 tails that could crush mountains and create tsunamis, with its breath that could forge hurricanes or produce infernos, would never allow itself to be subjugated, especially to an Uchiha. It would not become like the rest of its brethren, caged. However, that's exactly what happened, and now it was helpless unless someone freed it from its chains. History was repeating itself yet again. The descendants of the two sons of the Rakuto Sennin Sage of 6 Paths were spilling blood again thanks to their different ideals. The older sons believed that power secured peace became the curse of hatred that most if not all Uchiha would inherit, while the younger sons believed that love was the true way to achieve peace, transformed into the will of fire. An ideal that all in the Hidden Leaf village would learn and accept. The two powerhouses assaulted each other with powers none thought were capable. Cutting mountains, splitting the landscape, and overall destruction was what created the valley. But even with the power of the Kiwabi under his belt, and the strength of the Sharingan at his beckon, Madara lost a battle, stabbed in the back, by a man that was once his friend, betrayed by his clan, his family, seen as a pariah who would rekindle the flames of war, called the person that stole his brother's eyes, had lost everything when he felt the cold metal of a sword pierce his chest. In remembrance of the conflict that happened all those years ago, 2 statues were erected, one of Hashirama and the other of Madara, holding the seal of confrontation. The place where Hashirama Senju defeated the Kiwabi, and the place where Madara died, or so everyone thought. Present day, the valley was quiet. Nothing could be heard except for the loud chirping of birds emanating from within the valley itself. Sasuke Uchiha, the last loyal Uchiha of Konohagakure, had fled his village in order to gain power from Orochimaru of the Sannin. The reason why he was joining the treacherous snake was so he could become stronger to kill his older brother Itachi and avenge his clan that were massacred by said brother. He knew that at his current level he could never defeat Itachi even with the cursed seal of heaven, and he knew it. So he sought ever more power. Sasuke also left for other reasons, such as his teammate, Naruto Uzumaki, becoming stronger than him in a few months, and if there was one thing Sasuke disliked, it was being weak compared to other combatants, especially the dead last of his academy years. Naruto Uzumaki was a hyperactive, unpredictable, knucklehead blonde ninja that wore a hideous orange jumpsuit that screamed "kill me." How he was able to evade the Chunin and the Anbu of the village was a total mystery to everyone. Naruto was the Jinchuriki of the Kiwabi. The massive fox the size of the Hokage mountain was sealed into him when he was a newborn by the Yondaime Hokage, Minato Namikaze. The blonde had been ostracized his entire life. He would be subjected to glares of hatred and fear, or his entire existence would be ignored altogether, along with the rare beatings he would get from the villagers. So he created a psychological mask to hide his pain and anger, and later that mask became his personality. Naruto's skill as a shinobi wasn't very good to begin with. The teachers at the academy would tamper with his tests and sabotage his learning. Only Iruka was willing to teach him. Well, Iruka was one of the only people to acknowledge Naruto's existence and see him as him instead of the fox. But now he was at the mercy of a comrade that was like his brother. When Sasuke left the village, Tsunade, The Godame Hokage assigned recently promoted Shikamaru Nara to create a retrieval team to bring Sasuke back to the village. Although she preferred to lock up the spoiled brat or give him a massive beating, Shikamaru brought along a highly capable team of Genin, Kiba and Yazuka, a heavy hitter and great tracker, Choji Akimaki, just your well-rounded ninja, though not too bright. Neji Hyuga, the prodigy of the Hyuga clan, his Bakugan would be a major asset, and our favorite blonde ninja Naruto Uzumaki, the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails. They pursued Sasuke endlessly through the Land of Fire, where each squad mate sacrificed themselves to battle the members of the Sound Four. But some unforeseen complications arose with the arrival of Kimimaro Kaguya. Naruto wasn't a challenge to subordinate of Orochimaru, and he was wasting time by battling him. He had to get to Sasuke, but with the timely appearance of Rock Lee was he able to go after Sasuke directly without interference. And now we find ourselves at the current time and place. Sasuke holding up Naruto in his right hand with the power of the curse seal empowering him, a Chidori in his left hand, the signature technique of Kakashi Hatake of the Sharingan Eye. Naruto was thoroughly dominated by the Sharingan user. He could barely fight back thanks to the speed and strength the curse seal gave the Uchiha. So many emotions were going through Naruto's head, sadness and anger the most prominent. Sasuke, why? Asked Naruto as he felt his throat being crushed. The reason is simple, Naruto. It's because that pathetic village could offer me no more power to help me kill Itachi, spoke the Uchiha. But right now I can get even more power. Sakta started having flashbacks to what Itachi told him about the Mangekyo Sharingan, about how he needed to take the life of his best friend by taking your life in exchange for the Mangekyo. And with those words Sasuke rammed his Chidori through Naruto's heart. However, the blonde's own thoughts occupied his attention away from the hand through his chest. Sasuke, I thought you were my brother. I was happy that there was someone like me out there. I wanted to be like you. Strong and confident. All their eyes were on you, praising you. I wanted those eyes to look at me as well. We may have hated each other in the beginning, but I loved it. I loved competing against you, and someday I wanted to be acknowledged by you. Sasuke, thought Naruto as his eyes closed. Sasuke removed his hand from Naruto's chest, an emotionless look on his face. He then tossed Naruto in the water and proceeded to the land of sound. Goodbye, Naruto, thought Sasuke as he spared one last glance at the valley. Tears were now visible and they were falling freely from the Uchiha's eyes. He didn't notice that his Sharingan morphed into the Mangekyo. His Mangekyo consisted of 3 ellipses that converged on the pupil, resembling an Eden model. Taking the life of someone precious to you and regretting it was a price only an Uchiha could make. The Kiwabi was lying in its cage with the Kenji fur seal in the middle. Darkness was encroaching from every corner of Naruto's mind. The Kiwabi felt its own life slipping away with each passing second. The wound is too great for me to heal with my chakra. So this is how it ends, stupid brat. He got me killed and now I'm going to die within your spawn, Kushina. Curse you, Yondaime Hokage, for giving me this fate. I hope that pitiful village of yours was worth the price of your son, Shodaime Hokage. Your wretched will of fire has been extinguished. Spat the Kiwabi to no one in particular. It closed its eyes as it died, its chakra discreetly dispersing around the world. As Naruto was floating above the river, a gaping hole within his chest, his thoughts were occupied by his pink-haired teammate. I'm sorry, Sakura. I wasn't able to bring him back. I just wanted to make you happy. And that I never got to tell you how I felt. Those were Naruto Uzumaki's final thoughts before the Shinigami claimed him and he drew his last breath of life. Unknown to anyone, there was a third party nearby. It watched the entire spectacle. This figure was wearing a black cloak emblazoned with red clouds. It had a Venus flytrap extension that covered its torso and head. It had short green hair and yellow eyes. One half of its body was completely white while the other half was black and lacked any facial features except a round eye. That was quite the fight. Shut up. That was the most one-sided fight I've ever seen. If only he called on the Kiwabi's chakra, he would have won. Compared to the power of Baju, Orochimaru's cursed seal doesn't hold a candle to it, spoke the plant human thing. Although this could present us with an invaluable opportunity, spoke the black half. What do you mean? Inquired the white half. Although the Kiwabi's chakra has dispersed toward the corners of the world, its Jinchuriki's body is still mostly intact, uttered the black half. Can you still elaborate? Asked the white half. I thought you were smarter than this. It doesn't matter. Jinchuriki are known to have massive supplies of chakra because their coils have to harden in order for their bodies to cope with the stress of the Baju's chakra, stated the black half. So this boy has large reserves of chakra. The black half seemed to sigh at its counterpart. Isn't that what it just said? Yes. The average chakra reserves for a Chunin level Jinchuriki are greater than that of a Kage, said the black thing. However, there's more because that Jinchuriki was among the last members of the Uzumaki clan, continued the black half. Who are the Uzumaki clan again? Probed the white half. They were an extremely powerful shinobi clan of Finjutsu users, sealing jutsu, answered the black half. Finjutsu, an extremely powerful ninja art, spoke the white half. The Uzumaki also had great stamina and life force coupled with their extremely powerful and large chakra reserves. A Chunin level Uzumaki had the chakra reserves of a Kage and so on and so forth. I see. Then if this kid lived well into his adult years he would have Baju level chakra reserve, spoke the plant thing. However, there's more, said the black half, garnering the white half's attention. The Uzumaki were also an offshoot clan of the Senju, who broke away from the clan when they tired from the fighting with the Uchiha. They later fled to an island which they dubbed the Land of Whirlpools and created powerful seals and jutsu. However, they also had close ties with the Senju. This friendship was strengthened even further when Mito Uzumaki married Hashirama Senju. So this boy is a descendant of the younger son of the Rakudo Sennin. They said, I see now, if we were to bring the boy to him he can get what we want and we can finally finish what he started. He could combine the sage's body and the sage's eyes, uttered the white half. Exactly. So shall we do it? Asked the white half, even though it already knew the answer. Yes. The plant man thing made its way down to the valley and walked across the water using its chakra, where it picked up Naruto's body that was still floating on the surface. It headed to the bank of the river where it melded with the ground and disappeared along with the body of Naruto. Kakashi Hatake, prized student of the Yondaime Hokage, was running with the wind at his back and desperation filled his heart. With him was his personal summons, a pug dog by the name of Pakin. It's not much farther, their scent is getting stronger, shouted Pakin. Good Pakin. I just hope we make it, said Kakashi, fear evident in his voice. Then the sight of the Valley of the End was in sight. However, it started to rain, which would complicate things for Kakashi. Double time, Kakashi. We're losing Sasuke scent, yelled Pakin. At the rate they were going they wouldn't be able to make it. Kakashi and Pakin burst forth from the tree line and gazed upon the valley. They made their way down into the basin at the feet between the two legendary shinobi. I'm sorry Kakashi, I've lost his scent. The rain will wash away any trace of his scent, spoke Pakin dejectedly. But Kakashi didn't appear to hear him. The silver-haired man was searching the valley for any inkling of another person. Where's Naruto? Kakashi asked out loud. From what I can gather with my nose, Naruto's scent stops here. Even with the rain I will still be able to get a general direction, but it's as I said, informed Pakin. It's likely that Naruto ended up in the river where his scent would be untraceable. Oh okay Pakin, take the left side of the bank and I will take the right. Bark when you find any sign of Naruto, commanded Kakashi. He had already lost one student. He wasn't going to lose another. The shinobi and his dog summon searched along the river for hours on end. They didn't find anything. In fact, they found nothing. Nothing that can prove if Naruto was alive or dead. After 6 hours of scouring the banks of the river, they decided to head back to Konoha and see if any news on Naruto had survived. Or at least that was what Kakashi hoped for. Sasuke, Kabuto and Orochimaru, who had recently traded bodies, were walking through their underground hovel. They passed by multiple people. Men, women and children were locked behind bars, moaning and crying in pain and sorrow. Sasuke seemed unfazed by all the torture he was seeing. His own pain was far greater than theirs. I'm so glad you were able to make it to my base relatively unharmed, Sasuke-kun, drawled Orochimaru in his heavenly but vile voice. Just give me the power I desire. Soon, spat Sasuke. Kabuto, who had been watching the interaction, was not impressed. Should I remind that you are speaking to Orochimaru-sama and that you should show proper respect, snapped Kabuto as he grabbed Sasuke's shoulder, but flinched when he felt the intensity of the Uchiha's chakra. Such strong chakra, thought Kabuto as he shuddered from the touch. Yes, he's the one that shall be my next vessel. These next 3 years in the future are going to be quite intriguing indeed. thought Orochimaru gleefully as he licked his lips. How right he is. Kakashi had just returned to Konoha where he met Sakura at the gate just like she was last time. When she asked where Sasuke and Naruto were, he responded with "I don't know." Kakashi also noted that the rain that was at the valley seemed to follow him all the way back to the village. As he walked to the Hokage Tower, people were running around taking shelter, hopefully to escape the downpour. Kakashi himself was cold and drenched to his very core. His gravity-defying silver hair was downcast and dark. Even though you couldn't see his face, you could tell that Kakashi wasn't doing so well on the inside. When he reached the tower, he was about to knock but hesitated at the last second. How would he tell Tsunade of Naruto's disappearance? He knew that she didn't care about Sasuke at all, but the blonde, orange-wearing knucklehead was like a son to her. How would she take the news? Gathering all his confidence, he knocked on her door twice. He heard a come in from the other side. When he entered, he saw Tsunade working behind her desk, a bottle of sake on her right side. But something wasn't right. She had bags under her amber eyes, as if stress had really gotten to her, and you could see some wrinkles on around her face. It seemed that she had dropped her special henge just a little. "Anything to report, Kakashi?" she asked in a stalwart voice, snapping Kakashi from his wandering eyes. "Yes, Tsunade-sama. I tracked the scent of Sasuke Uchiha with my personal Ninken, Pakken. We found the scent when it started to rain that eventually diluted his scent, making it untraceable," reported Kakashi. Tsunade noted that something seemed off about his report, like something was eating at him. She looked down at her desk. She pondered asking this question, but she needed to know. "And what of Naruto?" Kakashi didn't say anything, but a red flag popped up in his head. "What do you mean? Didn't Naruto arrive with the rest of his squad mates?" asked Kakashi fearfully. Tsunade seemed to deflate at this. He wasn't found with the others?" asked Kakashi, fearing the answer. "No, please tell me Kakashi, did you find any trace of him?" implored Tsunade. "No. Pakken and I searched the valley and the riverside and we found no remnants of Naruto, only his scent, which stopped at the valley. But Sasuke also wasn't there, but he's alive," replied Kakashi. "I don't care about the spoiled Uchiha. Where is Naruto? Tell me," roared Tsunade. "He's..." spoke Kakashi, but he was interrupted by the arrival of a new voice. "He's dead, Kakashi," and Tsunade turned to see Jiraiya sitting on the windowsill, his arms crossed, and he was angry, unbelievably so. His visage was marred in an eternal sneer. What?" the two other ninjas said at the same time. Thunder struck in the background, creating a sense of foreboding. "It's true, I was contacted by Fukasaika-sama telling me that Naruto's name was taken off the summoning registration board at Myobakuzen. He really is dead," said Jiraiya angrily, "and he was killed by Sasuke Uchiha." Jiraiya spat the name like it was venom in his mouth. I stuttered Kakashi, but he was silenced by Jiraiya. "Shut up. Remember back on the hospital roof on how you berated me on trying to teach Naruto how to protect himself, for he would need it when the Akatsuki would come after him," growled Jiraiya. "But what did you teach Sasuke?" "That's right, you taught him a bunch of fire jutsus and the Chidori. A jutsu designed for killing. You may have sealed the cursed seal's dark effects, but you gave him the power to wield. It almost sounds like you wanted Sasuke to use that power." Kakashi just looked down at the floor in guilt. "You didn't even bother to learn what nature affinity Naruto had. You just pushed him to the side and gave him to someone that openly despised him, while you taught the Uchiha how to properly kill someone," scolded Jiraiya. "Minato never showed favoritism, not to you or any of your other teammates. This just proves to me that you're not fit to be a sensei, and now Minato's legacy is dead. All because you weren't bothered to teach him. I can understand because of Obito, but still the level of attention to Naruto was barely minimal." Jiraiya's words was like a sword piercing Kakashi's heart. "The only thing you did teach him was to climb trees with your chakra, which is the basic necessity for all ninja, and all those useless teamwork exercises. Look how that turned out. I'm the only person that really taught him anything. I taught him one of his father's treasured jutsu, the Rasengan, and you berate me for teaching him what was rightfully his." Jiraiya nearly shouted. Tsunade didn't choose to intervene because Kakashi needed to hear this. She agreed on Jiraiya's assessment. Even though Sarutobi praised Orochimaru, he never showed any favoritism to him or her or Jiraiya. "You can add this to the list of all the failures you have made in your life. You failed Minato, you failed Kushina, and you also failed Obito and Rin." Jiraiya stopped his verbal assault and turned toward the window. "Minato would be disappointed, Kushina would be disappointed, Sarutobi-sensei would be disappointed. They would all be disappointed in you. I hope you have the guts to face them when it's your time to go, said Jiraiya as he jumped away from the Hokage Tower. Hokage-sama, said Kakashi, just leave. I want you out of my sight this instant. Don't show your face to me in another week, ordered the Hokage. Kakashi didn't look up, he just dragged himself out of the office. If you would look closely you could see tears falling freely like a waterfall. Tsunade had her hands intertwined together, her eyes were overshadowed by her hair. Silent tears were crawling down from her eyes as she silently cried. Her cursed necklace had taken another one of her precious people, the boy who was like a son to her. She sobbed for hours because she wouldn't hear the hyperactive blonde's voice again. She wouldn't see the hideous orange jumpsuit he loved to wear. She would never see his big foxy smile, the smile that filled her with happiness. Happiness that she would never feel again. She blamed Sasuke and she also blames Kakashi, but no matter how many people she would blame nor how many times, it couldn't bring the whiskered blonde back to her. Kakashi was on his way to the memorial stone. He would go there every day to speak to his best friend Obito Uchiha, the person that gave him the Sharingan. Jiraiya's words hit him hard, but he was right. He failed Minato, he failed Kushina, he failed Rin, he failed Obito, and now he failed Naruto. Kakashi's life were only filled with failures. Kakashi-sensei, the copycat ninja, looked up and saw his last remaining student, Sakura Haruno. The pink-haired girl looked worried, like there was something on her mind that always seemed to bother her. Yo, Sakura, said Kakashi, downcast in sadness. Where's Naruto and Sasuke-kun? She asked curiously. He couldn't tell her. Here, not in the middle of a street. Follow me to the memorial stone, uttered Kakashi. Sakura nodded and followed after her sensei. When they reached the memorial stone, they didn't say anything until Sakura brought up a conversation to speak about Kakashi-sensei. I've been thinking lately, she said. Her eyes never left the stone that was in front of her. When I was waiting at the gates for Naruto and his team to come back, Ino asked me something. She asked me who I was waiting for, and I answered Naruto. I was waiting for him and not Sasuke-kun, she continued. Kakashi just listened to her now. Telling her that Naruto was dead was becoming harder and his guilt was weighing heavily on him. I then started thinking about Naruto and all he's done for me. I was so cruel to him when he just wanted to be my friend. I berated him when he brought up an idea, and when Sasuke-kun suggested the same thing I'd praise him for it and not Naruto. I then remembered his promise to me. I could see he was hurt when I asked him to bring Sasuke back. I don't know whether he was hurt because he saw me so sad or whether it hurt him because he thought my heart belonged to someone else. But when he put aside his own feelings for my own, I was so happy because he was so selfless and caring. Now that I think about it, he never treated me in a bad way. To Kakashi, this was just becoming harder and harder with every word she said. I then remembered a time when we were younger. I was being bullied by these boys who were making fun of my forehead, but Naruto came over and defended me. Eventually the boys beat him up. If it wasn't for my mom who came around the corner, they would continue beating him, so she stopped the boys hitting Naruto. But when she saw that it was him, she turned away and took my hand, saying to stay away from him. I was too young to understand. Maybe I'll never understand. Kakashi just let a few stray tears escape his eyes, knowing what her mother meant by stay away from him. Later I became the one who would verbally hurt Naruto and put him down to make myself feel better. Sakura, Kakashi said, but she continued. When we became a Genin team, I was so happy that I was on Sasuke-kun's team. Later I was sitting alone by myself when I saw Sasuke-kun. He complimented me on the one thing I hated, my forehead. But now when I look back at our time as a team, I realized that Sasuke would never say that to me, but it was something that Naruto would say. And now that I look back, I figured something out, that the one I truly love, the one that would sacrifice anything for me, even his own happiness, the one that stood by me the whole time, is Naruto. I love Naruto, and when he comes back I'll tell him that, and then I'll share my feelings with him, she said with pure determination. I used to think that I knew what love was, but it was just some wayward crush. True love is putting one's happiness above your own, and that's what Naruto would do for me in a heartbeat. But I want to be happy with him. This was too hard for Kakashi. He would have to tell. She deserved to know. So when will Naruto-kun and Sasuke-kun be back? She asked with unrestrained glee. That's the problem, Sakura, said Kakashi. The pink-haired girl was confused. Why was Kakashi so sad? There were complications on the retrieval mission, spoke Kakashi with his head still down. What do you mean? She was fearing the worst. What did Kakashi know that she didn't? Naruto was dead. Those words seemed to shatter glass. No. It could be, she muttered as she took some steps back. Her eyes were now watering and she felt this pain in her chest like someone clenching her heart. He was killed by Sasuke. That was the final nail in the coffin as Sakura's waterworks started to flow. She ran out of the training ground leaving Kakashi alone. Kakashi didn't make a glance at the memorial stone. He was just filled with guilt. He dropped to his knees as his tears started again. Minato-sensei, I'm sorry I failed to protect your son, said Kakashi as he freely sobbed. No one had ever seen this side of Kakashi, not since Obito died. Shikamaru Nara was waiting in the hospital. No news had come in from his teammates. Even worse, there was no news on Naruto. He battled a powerful member of Orochimaru's elite followers. She used summons and a strange flute. If it wasn't for the arrival of Gaara's sister Temari, then he would be dead. The only injury he suffered was a broken finger. He saw something in the corner of his eye. Tsunade the Godame Hokage walking towards him. He could see visible tear streaks. Shikamaru, we need to talk. She now had his undivided attention. It's about Naruto. Hope seemed to fill Shikamaru until it was knocked down by the news she gave him. It could be no, he shouted within the hospital. I will call a council meeting and then I will inform the village. I'm truly sorry, she said as she started crying again. She turned her back on the young Nara as kept chanting no. The council room was filled up. A semicircle-like table was in the middle with the heads of the respective shinobi council on the left and the civilian council on the right with the elders in the middle. Then Tsunade walked in slowly, her head down, which seemed to spark something in the minds of the shinobi council and the elders. Why have you called us today, Tsunade-sama? Asked Kouryu-ten, one of the Hokage's advisors. I came to inform you of the results of the retrieval team tasked with capturing Sasuke Uchiha and returning him to the village, she said emotionlessly. So has Uchiha-sama been returned to the village? Asked a fat member of the civilian council. No, the mission was a failure. It resulted with the shinobi being mildly injured, to another that would require care for a few weeks, 2 critically injured and 1 death. So who were the shinobi that were wounded? Asked another civilian member. The one that was mildly wounded was Shikamaru Nara. The other that would require some treatment is Kiba Inuzuka, and the 2 that were critically injured were Choji Akimaki and Neji Hyuga, informed Tsunade. And who was the one death? Asked Hayashi Hyuga, generally curious. Naruto Uzumaki. He was killed by Sasuke Uchiha, choked Tsunade. When the civilian council heard the news, they immediately started to cheer, happy that the demon was gone and that Uchiha-sama saved us. When the shinobi council heard this, they were both saddened and repulsed. Saddened by the blonde's passing because they believed he was a pure soul who couldn't do anything that would make him evil, because they weren't idiots. They knew the difference between a kunai and the scroll it was sealed into. And they were repulsed by the civilian council's total disregard to the blonde's life. The elders was worried. They had lost their Jinchuriki, their military power had taken a nosedive. If word spread to the other nations that Konoha had lost its Jinchuriki, then the other nations may attack. Tsunade was barely controlling her anger at the stupidity of the civilians, until one of them asked a stupid question. Hokage-sama, we the civilian council request that a statue be erected to honor Uchiha-sama's great deed. Shut up. No, I will never create a statue for that spoiled brat. He just abandoned the village, joined Orochimaru and killed the Konoha, and I the Godame Hokage hereby declare Sasuke Uchiha wanted nuke Nin, announced Tsunade, her anger overweighing her sadness. The shinobi council second this declaration, said Shikaku Nara. All this other shinobi clan heads nodded at this. Later the village was informed of Naruto's death and Sasuke's defection. Half the village were cheering and throwing parties in celebration of the death of the demon, while the other half were sorrowful because the blonde had done so much for them already. When Gaara heard the news, he was crushed. The first person that treated him like someone worthy of existence was dead. He made a vow that he would strive to become great to serve Naruto's legacy. He would not allow revenge to consume, but should he come across Sasuke Uchiha, he would not hesitate to kill him. Iruka was angry and sad, but mainly angry. The person that was like a younger brother to him was dead and the idiotic villagers were celebrating. He knew what kind of life Naruto led. He acknowledged his suffering, but he was even more disappointed that Naruto's death was at the hands of another of his students. He decided to lock himself in his apartment, and no one had seen the scarred Chunin for a whole week before he revealed himself to everyone around him. He was a mess. He had bags under his eyes and his cheeks and eyes were red and puffy, probably from all the crying. Out of everyone that was informed of Naruto's death, Konohamaru took it the hardest. He locked himself in his room and hardly came out for a week until Naruto's funeral. The whiskered boy was like an older brother to him, but now he was gone, just like his grandfather. the same huckage. He wasn't for a long time. The smell of ramen didn't jolt him from his depression, and even the mention of Naruto's name around him made his depression worse and worse with each beating second. He hadn't felt like this since the death of his grandfather when Orochimaru invaded the village with help from Suna. It was always raining after Naruto's death. It rained non-stop as if the heavens were weeping that such a pure soul was gone. Everyone that liked Naruto or had met him in person attended except Kakashi, where he wasn't invited, and Jiraiya because it was too painful for him. The people that did attend were all the Konoha genin in the last Chunin exams along with their proctors and senseis. Even the Sen siblings went. The funeral lasted for a few hours where everybody started to leave, but one person stayed. This person was Konohamaru Sarutobi. He just looked at the tombstone without a body. "I promise that your sacrifice won't be in vain. I will continue your legacy and become stronger for your sake, Naruto-Nisan," said Konohamaru as he made a promise he intended to keep. At Myobakuzen, the elder sage was in deep thought. How could someone like Naruto die so early? He secretly knew that Naruto was the child he spoke about in his prophecies. So why did the world think he was dead unless another force may have a hand in bringing Naruto back? And the elder knew that whatever it wasn't good. In a dark place stood a man with metallic purple eyes, with concentric rings surrounding his pupil. However, his body was distorted and it appeared like a rainbow. Then images of other people with different eyes but the same distorted appeared around him. All of them had one thing in common: they had black cloaks with red clouds on them. "How long has it been since we were all together like this?" asked a tall man with beady eyes. 7 years, not since Orochimaru left the organization to pursue his idiotic goals, said a hunched person. "So Orochimaru has the Sharingan? Hey Itachi, isn't that your little brother?" said another member. Itachi didn't visibly react to this jab, nor did he speak in any other way. "The Kiwabe Jinchuriki is dead," said the plant-like member among them. "Really, Zetsu? Who killed the Kiwabe Jinchuriki?" demanded the member with the ripple-like eyes in a dangerous voice. "It was Sasuke Uchiha, Itachi's brother," answered the plant man, now identified as Zetsu. "If you had only killed your brother the night of the massacre, the Kiwabe will still be alive. Instead its chakra is dispersed, which has set us back by years," reprimanded another with green eyes. Itachi didn't say anything, but his thoughts were different. "Foolish little brother, you have made the greatest mistake anyone could make in your shoes," thought Itachi as he closed his eyes. "We will just have to wait until the Kiwabe reforms, although that will take about 5 years. Until then we extract the rest of the Baju, but the Kiwabe must be sealed last or else the plan will fail. Now go and use the time you have now to train yourselves until we face the Jinchuriki," commanded the person that seemed to be the leader. All the illusionary bodies then began to disappear except for Itachi. "Naruto, I don't believe that you are dead, and if so, then where are you?" thought Itachi as his illusionary body also disappeared. A lone man-withered man was sitting upon a tree-like throne. He had light gray hair that went down to his waist, and 2 shoulder-length bangs. One covered his right eye entirely. He wore a black robe that covered most of his body, except for his back, which had 3 tubes connected to a massive statue. He was completely skinny and his face had many wrinkles along with a single visible Sharingan eye. He also had the remnants of an old Kusarigama that acted like a cane. He seemed immobile. If anyone saw him they would assume he wasn't breathing. This man had seen and participated in thousands of battles. He had witnessed death in every corner of his vision, but yet it didn't affect him at all. He had lost too much to war, too much to hatred. He was once called a god, but now he was nothing more than a dusty scroll who had both of his feet in the grave but refused to die. How long has it been since he saw sunlight, since he smelled the forests around him? To him, time had no meaning, no purpose. He was just waiting, but for what exactly he didn't know. He hadn't seen the face of another person for he doesn't care how long. He seemed to be taken out of his thoughts as his subordinate, Zetsu, rose up from the ground. His fly trap was the first thing he saw, but he quickly took notice of a bundle of cloth in Zetsu's arms. The bundle was large, but not too big, and it wasn't tiny, but it was small compared to Zetsu. "Zetsu," breathed the man hoarsely, "what are you doing here? And what is that in your arms?" questioned the withered man as he pointed his scythe at the cloth. "The reason why I'm here is because of what I'm carrying," answered Zetsu. He laid the bundle down on the ground carefully in front of the old man, to which the skeleton narrowed his lone, visible eye. The man picked up his Kusarigama and used the blade to unwrap the wad. What he saw made his eyes narrow even more in suspicion. It was a boy, Well, to be more precise, it was a dead boy with a gaping hole in his chest. This boy had sun-kissed blonde hair that was wild and untamed. He couldn't see his eyes because they were closed. He had 3 distinct whisker-like marks on each cheek, and he was wearing a repugnant orange jumpsuit that just disgusted him to no end. "Tell me, Zetsu, why did you bring me this corpse?" inquired the mummy with a melancholic look. "You always wanted someone to continue your plans, and I have found someone who could guarantee that," responded Zetsu happily as if nothing bothered him. "I would have preferred someone whose blade had pierced flesh and taken life away, and more importantly if his heart was beating," barked the old man, who then started having coughing fits. "But what if I told you that this boy is a former Jinchuriki who also descends from the Uzumaki clan?" replied Zetsu. Now the man was intrigued. He knew everything about the Uzumaki clan, especially their blood ties to the Senju and their amazingly powerful chakra. "Oh, he was also killed by an Uchiha for the Mangekyo," stated Zetsu matter-of-factly. The old man didn't care. "Interesting," said the man. "A member of the Uzumaki clan and also former Jinchuriki. Intriguing. He could become an extremely powerful shinobi if taught correctly. This could present me with the opportunity to continue it." "So you assume that if I return his life, then persuade him to become part of my plan, he could become an extraordinarily powerful asset that could further my goals?" queried the old man, where he received a nod from the colored thing in front of him. "Very good, Zetsu." The man shifted his eyes toward the body of Naruto. "But tell me, what of his skill level?" asked the wilted man. "From what I was able to gather, he knows the basic ninjutsu from the academy, but he has 3 powerful jutsu in his arsenal. But don't bother with genjutsu. With his chakra levels he would be unable to perform genjutsu. However, I don't know about taijutsu," explained Zetsu. The white half seemed to be happy that he was pleasing his master. The other didn't seem to care. "And what would be these ninjutsu?" responded the parched man. "He knows the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu and the Taiju Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. Also he knows a powerful A-rank ninjutsu that took its creator 3 years to develop, but it took him 1 week to master," claimed the 2 halves. Now the old shinobi was knee-deep in getting his hands on the boy. It didn't matter how much natural talent you had or how hard you worked. If you had the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, it wouldn't matter, for you could learn 1 year's worth of experience in 6 months, and a jutsu he mastered in a week, an A-rank jutsu. He had a lot of potential from what Zetsu was telling him. "You truly brought me a diamond among rocks, Zetsu. My faith is not given out easily, but you have earned it." His lone Sharingan shifted into a purple eye with multiple rings around his pupil resembling a ripple pattern. He went through a few hand seals before stopping at the snake seal and focused his chakra intensely. "Jado, Rintensei no Jutsu." A demonic head faded through the ground. It was surrounded by a purple aura and had the kanji 4 king on its forehead. It opened its mouth and out came a single wisp of green energy which ensnared Naruto's body. It instantly healed his wound where his heart should have been. However, there was a scar over his heart that seemed to look like lightning sparking away from the point of impact. Madara knew that if he wasn't directly connected to the statue, he would die. A few seconds passed and one could hear heavy breathing coming from Naruto. He was alive, but he was unconscious. "He will not awaken for a few more days." So Zetsu began a blood transfusion. Zetsu nodded at his master's command and readied the necessary things required for a transfusion. A few hours later the transfusion was a complete success. The man's blood was now running through this boy's veins, granting him the old man's gifts to be the boy's own. "So tell me, Zetsu, of the Uchiha that killed him?" The old man was curious, but he needed Zetsu to confirm his suspicions. "Who could I tell him, please see?" begged the white half to its black counterpart, knowing that its other half was going to interrupt when it talked. The black half just let it speak whatever was on its mind. "Fine. Well, the Uchiha was just and he..." "That's right, he left the village to join up with a Nuknian." "What was his name?" "Oregano," said the white half, trying to place a name. "Orochimaru," answered the black half. "They've seen the man before and they were just at a meeting discussing his actions." "How could it forget? The name is easy to remember." "Yeah, that's it." "Who is this Orochimaru?" He spoke the white man before he was interrupted by the black one. "He was the former student of the Sandaime Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi. During the Second Great Shinobi War he aided his village greatly along with his 2 teammates Jiraiya and Tsunade Senju." The old man scowled at the name Senju as if someone had just kicked his puppy. "They later fought an icon of the shinobi world, Hanzo no Sanshou, where the old ninja would spare the three of them and give them the title of Densetsu no Sanin. Later Orochimaru performed ghastly experiments on children where he would later flee his village and become a criminal. He was also the orchestrator of the Konoha invasion I informed you of, where he assassinated the Yondaime Kazekage and tried to assassinate the Sandaime Hokage, his former teacher, but he was barely able to kill the old Hokage despite the fact that Sarutobi lost much of his power thanks to old age. Orochimaru even went as far to revive his two predecessors, but their power was being limited at the time. Even still, the Sandaime came out on top when he sealed the two Hokage and took away the ability to wield handshills by sealing Orochimaru's arms. This Orochimaru was barely able to kill Tobirama's monkey even when old age had affected him, and he couldn't kill this Hanzo, a shinobi from some backwash village, even with two others, among them a Senju. The old ninja was quickly gathering his thoughts. Orochimaru doesn't sound like much of a great shinobi. I know that Sarutobi is strong. He may be stronger than Tobirama, but he is still far from comparing to Hashirama's or my own level in power. My future student would become much greater of a threat than his pet of an Uchiha, said the man as he chuckled darkly. A few days later Naruto awoke and he saw nothing but darkness. He adjusted his eyes to become accustomed to the rare light in the dark place. Where am I? Am I dead? Whispered Naruto to the void, hoping for someone to answer him. He just wanted to hear a voice that would assure him to ease him. He believed himself to be dead, but was he truly? Then a voice cut through the air like a knife through butter. In the realm between that which is eternal. Naruto looked up and saw the oldest man he had ever seen. This guy topped the Sandaime Hokage in old age easily, and he was standing over him like a statue. This guy, he has Sasuke's eyes. Is he an Uchiha like him? Thought Naruto as he stared at the man with half-lidded eyes. His whole body was numb. He couldn't really move. He couldn't feel anything other than the air and dust on his skin. A realm between that which is eternal? Just what kind of place is it? Queried the blonde as he stared at the man, tired and numb. The light did not obey Naruto's whim as the realm was dark. Too dark. A realm of nothingness would be precise, answered the withered man. A place that sits between two higher powers. Naruto stared at him some more, taking in his words. Just where was he? How did he end up in this place? I can't remember much now that He paused in his sentence when it all came rushing back to him. The mission to retrieve his friend, his promise to Sakura, his death. Sasuke, shouted Naruto as he pulled himself up. Oh, he chanted, clutching the area above his heart. But what? I don't feel any pain. Where's the wound? Then he noticed something strange. There was a strange lightning-like scar over his chest where his heart should be. Also, he was naked. Then he looked back at the old man again. I have healed your wounds and restored your life. If you can feel your heart pumping, that is a sign that you're alive, spoke the old man as Naruto just stared at him with open eyes, but he trailed his eyes downward to see the man holding an old scythe which glinted a little. New, you're a Shinigami who's brought me back to life, so to take me to hell please. Please, I want to live, screamed Naruto in a girly way. Okay, sorry if I took those pervy magazines, they're not mine, I swear they're Kiba's. The old man's sweat dropped at the blonde's behavior. Just how did perverted magazines matter? I am not the Shinigami young Uzumaki and you are not dead yet, although I am a Shinigami. In a way, said the old man with a small smirk. Naruto examined the old man. This guy looked like some old bat who would argue with his wife. But still. So you saved me, old man, thanks. Thanked Naruto, who was generally happy to be alive. But a thought came to him. New, please tell me you're not some shinobi pedo like that Orochimaru Teme. He screamed at the top of his lungs while tears cascaded down his face. I don't swing that way. Someone please save me. I am not a pedo, young Uzumaki, stated the withered man with a hint of anger at the rudeness and idiocy of the blonde before him. Oh, and if you aren't a pedo, then where are my clothes? Yelled Naruto. I burned them. Deadpanned the old man, which broke Naruto's stupor, and instead he started crying tears over his beloved jumpsuit. Well, Naruto is thinking, did he have to burn my underwear? The underwear had little frogs on them. They were meant to be burned. But still, it's far too early to thank me. This garnered the blonde's attention. And I'm sure you have some nindo that you abide by. Naruto was about to answer him, but he was cut off. Don't answer that, I just know I'm right. Naruto looked at the man quizzically, and he was right, he did have a nindo. You just seem like the type that won't go back on his word. Naruto sighed at him. His body was still numb, but at least he could move in a way. Sorry, old man, but I can't stay. My friends are counting on me and I have to be there for them, spoke Naruto with slight determination. Besides, I have to fulfill a promise I made to someone important to me. Naruto eased himself slowly off the bed, but the moment he tried to balance himself on his feet he fell, and the blanket covering his body was still hiding his lower regions. I have to return home, I have to. My friends need to know I'm alive. A promise you must fulfill. Huh, sighed Madara as he watched Naruto scrambling on the cold ground. I have just brought you back to life. Your muscles and internal organs are just starting to function again. It will take some time to fully recuperate from your revival, and if you move around more you'll only damage yourself even more and you may die again. No, I can't give up. I don't care if you revived me, I will return to Konoha, grunted Naruto as he tried to pick himself up off the floor but failed, for his body was still too weak and he could feel this pain inside him like his stomach was twisting itself. The old man sighed as he continued to watch the boy try and fail to leave the dark hovel, but the blonde could barely lift himself up off the floor and he would kill himself unless he got rest. Why do you repeat the same action but expect a different result? Asked the man as he watched the boy continue to fail in his attempts. That he had to admit the child had determination. Because I don't give up and I always keep my word, for that's my Nindo, my shinobi way, yelled Naruto with nothing but unbreakable stubbornness. The man continued to stare at the boy. His sheer determination was admirable and he had a strong will. You could always judge someone by just a glance, but to form an opinion on them was watching them in action. Those words are empty and not full of conviction. No matter how the wind howls, the mountain cannot bow to it, spoke the man with wisdom. Saying something is far different than doing something. You have yet to realize that this is your birth by sleep, to wake up from this reality and accept what is before your eyes. But Naruto felt some stray tears prickling at the corners of his eyes as he lay on the dirty ground, his face buried on the cold floor. He was helpless and he couldn't get back to his friends. No matter what he tried he couldn't leave, so he reined his composure and accepted that he wasn't going anywhere for now until he had recovered. The old man placed his scythe cane by the bed and helped Naruto back onto the bed gently. Just who are you? Whispered Naruto as he laid back on the bed. He deserved to know the name of the person that brought him back to life at least. The man walked over and sat atop his root-like throne and cleared his throat, amassing the boy's attention. As to who I am the ghost of the Uchiha. I am Madara Uchiha, said the man, now known as Madara, as light seemed to fill the dark. Naruto, with his eyes adjusting to the room, saw and beheld a large flower as tall as a mountain with a massive statue sitting in a lotus position with its hands chained together, and there were small tubes connecting the statue to the man. Naruto looked back at the legendary shinobi dumbly and then he laughed. Yeah right, you're Madara Uchiha, as if Madara is dead. Madara's sweat dropped at the blonde. First of all, it was easier for him to believe that the old man was the Shinigami. Second, he originally thought he was a pedo, and third, he had the Sharingan. Look into my eyes, Uzumaki. Naruto saw and beheld Sharingan eyes. One was hidden behind his bang. Naruto had forgotten about those eyes, where he chanted stupid multiple times in his head for not noticing them. So you are Madara Uchiha, stuttered Naruto as he peered into the blood-red eyes that reflected anger and hatred. Yes, and I have also given you the power of the Uchiha clan, spoke Madara with little emotion. I can awaken the Sharingan, asked Naruto with a hint of excitement. Yes, and you can use the bloodline like any other Uchiha, replied Madara. Cool, said Naruto with a small smile. You know, old man, you ain't half bad. Naruto was smiling his foxy grin. He didn't care now, he could get those cool eyes and maybe he could perform genjutsu. Yes, but young Uzumaki, tell me, what do you think of this reality? Asked Madara. He needed to know if he was going to coerce the blonde to help him. What do you mean? Inquired Naruto as his happy expression faded away. What I mean is, what do you expect from this world? Pressed Madara. Well, I expect love and friendship in this world, and hopefully a place where people would understand another and not have to fear and hate each other, responded Naruto. But Madara scoffed at the idea. In this world, people don't get what they wish most, and that is a fact. We are subjected to the whims of this reality that is filled with suffering and hatred. When there is light, there is also darkness. One cannot exist without the other. This world is full of pain and futility. Those are the only things that exist in this reality, uttered Madara. There are only winners and losers in this world, along with the selfish desires to create a lasting peace. But there can be no peace when the world is flooded by rage. The selfish desire of peace will only be temporary and war will rise. Hatred is birthed from the protection of love, and more hatred will follow after it like vultures. Everything I have said is nexuses, bound together by an unbreakable chain that keeps adding on to its links. The chain cannot be broken, for we all wear it. There is nowhere to break the chain. Normally what you say has some truth to it, muttered Naruto as he looked away from Madara. I hate this world. I loathe it with every cell in my body. This world is hell, and I have been condemned to live in it. Only the powerful decide fate, and not the weak. Without strength you will become a slave to those who are. I have cheated death too many times to know that I am strong enough to decide my fate, but still I'll be dead soon, for immortality doesn't truly exist. But even still the strong can only do so much when compared to the power of the world. Time is every man's enemy, for it devours all things and nothing remains afterwards. I despise this world with all my being. That's why I want to change it, change what has been fated for this world, announced Madara. I will create a world of peace and love where there is no hatred and no pain. That sounds wrong, said Naruto. You will think like that for now, assured Madara. However, you could have anything you ever wanted in this dream world. I know how you Jinchuriki are treated. Sorry, former Jinchuriki. They saw you as nothing more than a constant reminder of their pain, explained the Madara. Let me guess. The villagers, they feared you, hated you, denied you the right to live, the right to love, and they ignored your existence altogether. You are nobody, am I correct? Asked the shinobi. Well, yes, whispered Naruto as his eyes were overshadowed by his hair. Then those people were stupid. They let their fears rule them, and their hatred blinded them, assured the innocent Uchiha. As long as there are things in this world that people don't understand, they will always live in terror, finished the Madara. But there are people I still care for, shouted Naruto. Like who? My fellow clan member that killed you, bit back Madara. Naruto then started having flashbacks of his time with Sasuke, and he was right. Sasuke's hatred had consumed him. It became him, where he would hurt anyone if it meant he would gain power. I see that you understand. Even if you try to leave this place, with your power and your weak body, death will come to you quickly, whispered Madara hoarsely. Naruto relented, knowing that he was right. What would happen in this dream world? Questioned Naruto. Anything you ever wanted would become reality. You can create people, manipulate landscapes, even revive the dead, answered Madara. Where Naruto gasped. He could meet his parents, find out who they were. Madara then channeled chakra to his left eye and whispered Tsukuyomi. Naruto and Madara were then transported to a white void. This is what the dream world will initially look like. Then Madara's appearance began to change. He now looked much younger and healthier. This is what will happen. It's a genjutsu. However, my eye cannot create this. I require a stronger power in order to create this genjutsu. What would you need? Asked Naruto as he was liking this plan more and more. In order to cast the genjutsu eye, or another Mangekyo Sharingan user must cast the Tsukuyomi on the moon, informed Madara. Sounds easy enough, said Naruto, brushing off what Madara said. No, if I could just cast Tsukuyomi on the moon I would have done it already, retorted Madara. The old Uchiha then began to explain the history of the Juubi along with the Rakuto Sen and his sons. I see we require the power of the Juubi as a catalyst so we could cast the Tsukuyomi on the moon, said Naruto, understanding everything he was told, surprising Madara with his intelligent talk. Exactly. However, in order to revive the Juubi we need to combine the 9 Baju and seal them within the Jado Mazo, and then one of us would become its Jinchuriki and we'd cast the genjutsu on the world, forcing everyone into the dreamscape, explained Madara. I have given you my blood which will allow you to control the Jado Mazo. However, you require the Rinnegan to summon it. Naruto and Madara were now out of the genjutsu. Uzumaki, I gave you a second chance, so will you repay me someday? Queried Madara. Naruto's eyes were downcast and his hair was covering his eyes, but he nodded his head. This was the perfect chance for revenge against all those idiotic villagers. So, now is the time to ask. What is your first name? Asked Madara. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, announced the blonde Uzumaki, dropping his psychological mask. Maelstrom. That's a strong name. A good one too. And do you have any regrets? Pressed Madara. I regret not killing Sasuke Uchiha, proclaimed Naruto as he made eye contact with Madara. However, instead of the ocean blue that they were now blood red with 3 tamo surrounding the pupil. However, the pattern changed into a 3-pointed sight surrounding his red pupil. The eyes pattern almost looked like they hungered for death, to take lives, almost like a Shinigami. Eyes reflected the person's soul. Those eyes reflected the need to harvest life itself. Very well. From today you are now my student Naruto, said Madara with a small smile. Today we will commence the Eye of the Moon plan, said Naruto, and bring peace to this world. Heart of Fire. She was crushed. Why? The boy that had apparently loved her was dead. It hadn't been a month since a certain blonde ball of energy passed on. She wasn't the only one suffering. Hinata was too. She had a crush on the idiot, but she never had the courage to tell him. Now she had lost her chance as well. She was so useless. If only she may have been stronger, she could have been there to help Naruto. But no, she was busy fawning over someone that hated her. She was so blind to the obvious truth that the orange-loving kid with the ocean eyes saw her as the center of the world. But now he was gone, and it seemed the village just felt empty, devoid of emotion. A dark gray had cast itself over the village, leaving all the color behind in favor of the dull, lifeless color. The sun seemed to shine less brightly over the buildings and people, and its light was no longer warm and soothing to the touch, and it wasn't cold either. It was just in between. She missed the warmth she would feel every day, but the warmth she received when around him was almost like standing next to a sun. She never got that feeling when around Sasuke, to be precise. All he was, is and will be, cold like the moon. The sun had lost its warmth and the wind was cold. It now rained more often ever since he died, and it was supposed to be called the Land of Fire, not Land of Sad Rain. Now she knew how Omega-Q felt. But why did it rain more often than it ever has? Was the sky weeping and crying over the death of a person whose personality was almost skin to that of the sky, joyous and carefree, freedom unbound? All that space and to do everything you could to the best of their ability. He was like that, uninhibited by the rules and laws of the world, making only rules for himself and only himself. No one would yell at him. He would get away with everything. Sakura sometimes felt like he was always so lucky to not have parents to yell at you or punish you. But did she really think like that? What if she would spend a week in Naruto's shoes and maybe she would understand how he would feel? There was a saying that she sometimes heard in the village: you can't truly understand someone until you walk a mile in their shoes. That statement rang true indeed. The village seemed to return to the status quo, but sometimes wounds took a lot longer to heal than others. Everyone had seemed to have forgotten the blonde, but Sakura could see that they still had scars. It seemed like they hated the blonde for an as of yet unknown reason that the pinkhead couldn't fathom. She always wondered why, but she felt that by discovering the secret would cost her more than it's worth. There was one person she would see every day, someone that was closer to Naruto than she was, Konohamaru. After the orange-loving boy's death, she would check up on the Sarutobi heir to see if he was trying to undo the pain in his heart, but she would be rejected and dejected every time when he would say, "I'm fine, just training," so she just left him on his own so he could cope with loss himself. But the one statement that pinched her chest was, "I will continue his legacy." That sentence seemed to spark something within her. It felt like there was an opportunity around the corner, but it was nagging at her mind. What was she supposed to do? The potential to be something great in his eyes, so he could look down and be proud of her and her accomplishments. That was something she wanted more than anything. She had sometimes dreamed of ending herself and going up to join him in the other life. But would that truly solve anything? The blonde spent every waking moment he could to make the village a better place. He gave away his money to orphans, the poor and the downtrodden, obviously understanding how they felt. That was one thing she loved about him, his selflessness. He would do just about anything, just about anybody. He was like that, always helping people, no matter if they were friend or foe. Although he was always loud and exuberant, that was always something that made her giggle. She remembered when her team did the tree climbing exercise. Apparently she had near-perfect chakra control. Wasn't there something that involved great chakra control? She couldn't remember, but she was sure it would come to her. Tsunade Senju was sitting behind her desk doing what she dreaded most: paperwork, filing missions, approving D-ranks, stuff that didn't even matter. How she would give for a certain rambunctious blonde to call her Ba-chan, despite how she hated that nickname, and yet she let him call her that. Like everyone who knew the sun-kissed blonde, she too was hurting on the inside. It was like a horrid feeling wrenching inside her that refused to leave, like a parasite. She loved the orange lover as if he was her own son. She had finally found the precious person that she could bestow her necklace upon, but its curse had acted again and taken the boy away from her. She believed the stories, that in fact the stories were true, that the cursed necklace would only accept her as a bearer. She should have done more for him, possibly given him better living conditions or gave him more money so he could live. Apparently, Naruto had gathered up quite a bit of money thanks to all the missions he would do. But she heard that he rarely spent it and he only brought things he needed, but there were other things he needed, such as friends, family and love. He spent his money on others' needs that he didn't focus on his own. He had plenty of money and he rarely met up with his friends, that he never really formed bonds with them, or his friends just thought he was a nuisance and idiot and avoided him like all the others. He could have gotten better clothing than that jumpsuit, she thought. Naruto, whenever he had gotten any money after becoming a shinobi, he gave it away to orphans and the orphanage. But after he died, the orphans stopped getting any funds. Even the matron that run the place came in and told her about it, though when she asked she always said it was signed as anonymous. That boy, heart of gold indeed. That knucklehead was nothing but a kind of spirit, filled with nothing but everything positive, and he was the purest soul you could meet. She believed that he would earn the acknowledgement of the village someday, but now, today or any other day. She turned her head to the left and picked up a picture. It was her and the sun-kissed blonde, on the road back to Konoha where she would become Hokage. In the picture she was hugging him and they were both smiling wildly. He really was like a son to him, but now he was gone, thanks to the Uchiha. She issued a capture on sight order. If her ninja ever saw him, she wouldn't kill him. That's not what he would want. Plus the civilian council and the elders pulled some strings and passed her judgment, because they needed the Sharingan. What a load of bull, she thought angrily. The Sharingan was an asset the councilors believed was vital to the power of Konoha. They also claimed since the Sharingan could control the tailed beasts that they don't even need the Kiwabi. But there has never been an Uchiha that could fully control the power of a Biju since Madara Uchiha, so therefore it was unlikely. Tsunade was brought out of her musings when she heard a knock at the door. Wondering who it was since she sent Shizune on an errand that needed to be done, she ushered the person in. To her surprise, it was Sakura Haruno, Naruto's teammate. Now she was confused. What does she want? When Tsunade first laid her brown, honey eyes on the pink head, the very first thought that came to mind was fangirl. That thought was even further when she saw Sakura embrace Sasuke as if her life depended on it. She also saw the pained expression Naruto had when she hugged Sasuke. That spoiled brat. Tsunade had met and seen many fangirls in her long life and all were obsessed with their love interests, looks, talent and coolness, most of which didn't matter, and most times the catcher of their eyes weren't interested in them. So basically they were chasing after mirrors. Sakura was no different. She was probably the biggest fangirl the girl had ever seen, and there wasn't anything special aside for Sasuke other than he was an Uchiha. If he had the Mangekyo Sharingan, then he was worth something. Her thoughts were broken when the pink-haired girl's voice broke the silence like a stick. Tsunade-sama, I wish to speak with you, she said. The busty blonde-haired woman could tell that she was nervous. For one, their eyes hadn't connected, and two, the girl's body language was screaming guilt. She hadn't really met Sakura aside from seeing her the few times around the village and seeing her with Naruto, but still she would listen to the girl. Tsunade fell into her stalwart Hokage demeanor where she had a stoic face and judging eyes. Do you require something, Sakura? She asked in a way that only a leader can speak with. Tsunade-sama, I ask of you to take me on as your apprentice, pronounced Sakura. Sakura's heart was beating hard and fast. It took all her courage just to stand in front of the woman. Why did she agree to this? Why did she come before the Hokage, the leader of her village? Her courage was leaking from her like water through a crack. She felt like she was going to shatter at any moment like broken glass. Even walking into her office felt like she was stepping on needles. But she had something to prove, something to make everyone proud of her, to make him proud of her. She wanted to stand tall as a kunoichi, a strong, confident one, which was not at the moment. Tsunade was genuinely surprised. She never expected this question to come from her. But still, why? She understood the request easily, but there must have been an ulterior motive behind it. But why herself? There were plenty of other tutors in Konoha, even Kurenai would be acceptable. But training directly from the Godame Hokage herself, the strongest woman in the world. This was no coincidence, and why did she get the feeling that it was connected to a certain someone? Shizune, shouted Tsunade in a commanding tone. Her assistant apprentice came running through the door carrying several stacks of paperwork to which she was sent out for and had just returned, and somehow Tsunade knew she was there. Yes, Tsunade-sama? she asked. Whenever her mazer used this tone of voice, she was always a bit peeved. Please bring me the file on Sakura Haruno, she ordered, still in her stalwart fuzz. Shizune nodded and quickly left the room for the file. The two kunoichi left in the room were quiet like the grave. Tsunade intertwined her fingers and placed her hands in front of her face. She was studying the girl in front of her. The first thought that came to mind was fangirl, the bane of all true kunoichis. It was because of ninja like this that gave the word kunoichi a bad name, and that's why they were never taken seriously. Not only that her figure was too skinny and there was barely any muscle on her, was she dieting? The pighead needed to get rid of that because in battle it would sap her energy and make her a slow, easy target, and if she didn't build muscle, then how was she going to defend herself from enemies? Without a healthy body, the shinobi or kunoichi won't be much use whether or not they have strong ninjutsu and chakra. Sakura was being scrutinized before Tsunade. She didn't know her thoughts or feelings, but she knew that they weren't good because of the look that she was giving her. She couldn't back down. Now she had something to prove, and if she broke down in front of Tsunade, then nothing will be achieved. Shizune returned to the Hokage's office with the folder in hand and then gave it to her master. Tsunade ordered her to leave, for what was about to transpire must be done privately. Tsunade examined the folder before opening it. On the page there was a picture of Sakura after she had recently become a genin. She scanned every page, every word that was within the file, every little detail. She scanned the folder. Tsunade snapped the folder shut and turned her gaze back on the girl in front of her. Sakura Haruno, your file says some things that are truly dissatisfactory, were the words that Tsunade used. Sakura was hurt, but she knew it was true. If she denied it, she would only be a fool. It says doesn't take shinobi skills and training seriously. Too obsessed with personal affections that get in the way of teamwork and concentration, spoke Tsunade blankly. It also has reports on your missions and Chunin exam preliminary battle with Ino Yamanaka. In your mission reports, mainly your first C rank turned A rank. It explains in detail about how over-reliance on teammates when faced with a superior adversary clouded judgment and stayed behind the scenes without participating once in team action to save their sensei who was trapped. Then there's the report on your prelim match with Ino Yamanaka. Chosen words are pathetic by Kurenayuhi. Barely has mastery of the basic academy jutsu and showed no other skills other than below-average taijutsu, says Asuma Sarutobi. In disgrace to all kunoichi, says Eiko Mitarashi, and who let her in the academy, says Ibiki Morino. Sakura's confidence was breaking fast. Everything she said was right and she can't dispute that. But this is not important, spoke Tsunade as she finished reciting the report. Why do you wish to become my apprentice, Sakura? That was the question Tsunade wanted to know the most. Because I wish to be a strong kunoichi and serve the Leaf Village and become an admirable medic nin, spoke Sakura with false confidence. No, was what Sakura heard. She looked up and saw Tsunade looking at her sympathetically. Sakura, tell me the truth, why do you want to become my apprentice? Queried Tsunade. Sakura gasped at the answer. The Hokage knew she was lying, but she just wants to know the real reason why. I want to become stronger. I want to learn medical ninjutsu so I can save people. People die, I know that, but doesn't mean we can give them the chance to live. I don't want people like Naruto to die. She started freely sobbing. I want to become strong to make him proud of me. I want my life to have a purpose. I don't want Naruto's death to be for nothing. I want his will to carry on through me and all the others. So please take me on as your apprentice, pleaded the pink-haired genin. Tsunade expected that answer, but still seeing Sakura break down in before her was almost a mirror image of the time Den and Nawaki were killed during the Second Shinobi World War. Those two were her life, and when she lost them, a piece of herself followed after. Very well, Sakura Haruno. You are now my apprentice. We will start tomorrow, but don't expect me to go easy on you. My training will be hard and rigorous, spoke Tsunade seriously. Sakura steeled herself and faced her new teacher. Yes, Tsunade-sensei, I won't fail you. And with that said, a new promise was made to a blonde-haired boy. Somewhere dark and cold was an old man sitting on a wooden throne, a kusarigama in hand that substituted as his cane. This man was Madara Uchiha, and he was watching his only student Naruto Uzumaki going through physical torture. Technically it was a physical workout. It was a week ago when Naruto's rehabilitation finished and his muscles and internal organs started working properly. The first thing he started on was Naruto's physical muscle. When Naruto first started, he had a lot of baby fat and not much muscle. which was something that needed rectified and quickly. Madara knew that the blonde needed to be in peak fighting condition where he one day shatter a stone with one of his punches. So he forced Naruto into his training by doing 1,000 push-ups, 1,000 sit-ups, 1,000 squats and 2 hours of non-stop running. To Naruto, Madara was a slave driver, but the blonde never complained. After Naruto had woken up, Zetsu brought him some new clothes after his old ones were destroyed by his new sensei. His new attire consisted of a leather vest, Anbu-style pants, fingerless leather gloves and a pair of black ninja sandals. When questioned how Zetsu got them, it didn't answer, but the white half did. It explained that the big flower was growing even more white Zetsus and that the artificial humans can turn into other people, and they bought the clothes with fake money. So that was how Zetsu got the clothes. No more questions were asked. Surprisingly, Madara had a quaint knowledge of ninjutsu. He immediately created gravity seals designed for Naruto to increase his speed, strength and physical mass, and it was a great plan. Already Madara was able to see the results of the torture training he had Naruto undergo. There was the faint buildup of muscle where the body parts that Naruto targeted someday that muscles would become hard as wood. Over the week Madara had gotten to know the hyperactive blonde, and he was intriguing. Even after dropping the psychological mask, Naruto still held on to some of his tendencies. He had a peculiar obsession for ramen, calling it the food of the gods. He still liked the color orange despite the verbal beating he got from Madara saying that orange was a stupid and useless color, to which the two argued for hours on end saying whether or not orange was or was not a stupid color. But Naruto sported a small smile afterwards. But now Naruto was a quiet and reserved individual. He never complained, well, not to Madara anyway, and he smiled less. And it seemed like Naruto was really bitter towards the people of Konoha, which was what the old Uchiha wanted. A great change to Naruto now was that he was a perfectionist that didn't stop until he fully mastered what he was learning, which reminded Madara of himself. But the most amazing thing about his student was that he had untapped potential lying within him, as if a great flood was being held back by a wall made of sticks. You didn't need the Sharingan to see it. Even without the cage punch and no jutsu, it was there. He was pleased that Zetsu brought him the boy. He now had a powerful weapon to carry on his legacy and will and complete what he had been planning for years. But one thing he did take offense to was the quality of the shinobi of the current age, where the elite were unable to capture a blonde-haired boy wearing a bright orange jumpsuit in the middle of the day. But now he was pondering whether or not to start teaching Naruto elemental manipulation. But to do that he would need to discover Naruto's chakra nature, for if he was going to use the boy he was going to make him as strong as possible, because he was now unable to do much. In a way, Naruto reminded Madara of his younger brother Azuna in more ways than one. They shared the same determination and quiet nature and were similar when it came to fighting, focused and quick thinking. But one thing about the blonde that surprised Madara was Naruto's deceptive nature. The boy was cunning and tricky. Madara likened him to a fox. Ironic considering he was a container for a massive orange fox with 9 tails. Maybe that's where he got his love for orange. But this talent would certainly be a boon in the future. Madara never knew what Naruto was scheming. It was well hidden by a wall of words, but Madara had a feeling that Naruto was planning something. And speaking of the fox, it seemed that Naruto was able to retain his incredible healing ability. Now he could use the Shadow Clone Jutsu to full effect without any negative drawbacks. The future, thought Madara. The ancient Uchiha knew he didn't have much time left. Even while connected to the statue that was keeping him alive, he had about 3.5 years left before the statue stopped giving him chakra to sustain himself. But there was one thing on Madara's mind that gave him pause: the Kiwabi attack. The beast was sealed in the boy by the Yondaime Hokage, but why would the fox just randomly attack the village when it had the chance to escape and be free? By attacking the village it had another chance to be sealed again. Unless someone was controlling it, couldn't have been his enemy, Hashirama, because he was dead and Zetsu told him he was sealed. So who could it have been? Another Uchiha. Zetsu, yelled Madara hoarsely. In a few minutes he could see the Venus flytrap that opened up to expose his head. Yes, asked the black half. Why did Madara call for him the last time he visited? Was when he gave Naruto his new clothes. Find out everything you can about the Kiwabi attack 13 years ago, and see what could have caused it and who was controlling it, commanded Madara. The white half was confused. Why would he care about the Kiwabi attack? But the black half understood fully. I'll check it out, said the black half half he was about to sink and he ground before the white counterpart spoke up. "Oh, and here's the papers you wanted," spoke the white cheerfully. It handed Madara the papers and sunk into the ground. Madara examined the papers. "Yep, perfect," Naruto called Madara. Naruto stopped on his 924th push-up and just stared at his sensei curiously. Madara called him over and began to explain chakra natures and affinities. "Naruto, you see this in my hand," said Madara. Naruto just stared at the papers. What was so special about them? They were just papers. Pieces of paper. He answered blankly. That was another thing about him that was new after dropping the mask. Naruto was now devoid of emotion, or he just never revealed his emotions, but Madara believed it was the latter. "Yes and no. These are chakra papers," spoke Madara. But Naruto didn't seem like he was following on with the same thought. "These papers are grown from a tree that is infused and grown from chakra. They are able to tell you what affinity you have to one of the basic elements, fire, water, wind, earth and lightning. Each one has their own strengths and weaknesses and other special relationships with one another." Naruto just nodded, now knowing that they were quite interesting papers. "Now, I have little doubt that you have a fire affinity in part to my blood that's running through you," spoke Madara. "Wait, sensei," asked Naruto. Now he had the old man's attention. "How do you tell what chakra nature you have with these papers?" Madara was getting around to that. He handed Naruto one of the papers and held onto to another. "Like this," said Madara. He channeled a small amount of chakra into the paper. What happened first was half of it ignited and turned to ash, while the second half split in two. "You see, Naruto, this paper is sensitive to chakra, and when you channel even the smallest amount, something will occur. Now tell me what happened to my paper." Naruto just recalled what he just saw. "First half of your paper ignited and turned to ash. Then after that the second half split in two." "Exactly, which means I have two affinities, fire and wind." Naruto just nodded. At least he had a teacher that was skilled in fire jutsu. "Now to find out your affinity, 5 things will happen to your paper. If your affinity is fire like mine, your paper will burn. Wind also like mine will cut in half. Water, it will become wet. Earth will crumble into dust, while lightning it will wrinkle," explained Madara. "But my main affinity is fire since it was the first to appear." Naruto nodded and looked at his paper. He channeled his chakra into it and 3 things happened. First, the paper split in two. The 2 halves that were left, one burned and turned into ash while the other wrinkled up. Madara stared at the paper. 3 chakra natures. That was rare and they all appeared to be natural too. "It seems you have 3 affinities, Naruto. Wind, fire and lightning," praised Madara. "Cool. So when do we get started on elemental manipulation?" asked Naruto. He was really tired of doing all these exercises. "You don't," said Madara. "What?" spat Naruto. Why was he even doing all those punishing exercises? "But I have the Sharingan, I can just predict my enemy's attacks," stated Naruto. He didn't notice the wrinkly hand coming at him aimed for his head. A loud slap was heard as Madara's hand came into contact with the back of Naruto's head. "Don't question your master," bellowed Madara. The blonde was lying on the floor clutching the back of his head. This was the first time Naruto was being rebellious in front of Madara, and then he said something stupid. "I just did, you old goat." Several tick marks appeared on Madara's face. He didn't mind being called old, but an old goat was something he didn't stand. He gripped his Kusarigama and started whacking Naruto with it multiple times on its blunt end while Naruto was repeating, "Oh, I'm sorry, oh." Around about this time Zetsu returned and was treated with a rather amusing sight. Madara was hitting Naruto with the blunt side of his Kusarigama. Although the hits didn't really hurt Naruto, he just wanted to stop being hit by an old man. It was breaking his reputation. The 2 halves chuckled at the scene since it was rare when Madara would become so active. After a few minutes of discipline by Madara, the old Uchiha sat back down in his throne-like chair. "Naruto, there is a limitation to the Sharingan," said Madara, gaining the blonde's attention. "Even though we can see all our opponent's movements doesn't mean we can intercept them all the time. You must train your body to be able to overcome every threat, and the Sharingan will be your tool to further overwhelm your opponent, because even if you can track their movements, your own body will not be able to keep up with your opponent's," explained Madara. "That's why I gave you 8 seals to increase the amount of speed and strength within you attacks, while your other exercises are to increase your stamina." Now Naruto understood. If he only explained that to him in the beginning. "You could have just said at the beginning," mumbled Naruto. "I wanted you to figure it out," said Madara. But Naruto was surprised by that statement. "I want you to be able to figure these things out yourself, for if you are going to deploy the Eye of the Moon plan, Then you will face powerful opponents like the cages, clarified Madara. Now get back to your training, or do you want me to hit you again? Said Madara with an evil glint in his eye. Naruto nodded and went back to training. Madara faced Zetsu. That didn't take long, commented the former Uchiha leader. Zetsu just stared impassively at its creator. That's because of what I found was quite interesting. And what did you find? Asked Madara, raising his gray eyebrow at his subordinate. A note from the Yondaime Hokage to the Sandaime saying a person claiming to be Madara Uchiha took control of the Kiwami and attacked the village. The village has become quite lazy if it can be infiltrated so easily. But back to the Kiwami attacker, spoke Zetsu. Impossible. I was sitting right here 13 years ago, and even then my body was not like it was. I couldn't be able to extract the Kiwami and attack the Konohagakure with the blade I have now, growled Madara. Some Uchiha is impersonating me, a copycat. We need to find this person and kill him. He could be a threat to me and my plans. He could ruin everything. And I did just that, declared Zetsu. Somehow Zetsu always seemed to please him more and more. Whoever had attacked the village has been manipulating the Akatsuki through the guise of Madara Uchiha. Although I couldn't place a name, I have found out that he has ensnared Nagato, and has ordered him to collect the Baju to seal in a statue. Madara was in thought at what Zetsu said. Someone was influencing Nagato to carry out the exact same plan he thought of. This person must have been a really good copycat, or he just took pleasure in using a name that he couldn't measure up to. But he was influencing the only other person who could summon the decrepit statue, Madara's pawn. When the time is right, I will have Naruto deal with the impersonator, because I cannot anymore. Although I would love nothing more than to deploy the infinite Tsukuyomi. This person is controlling my pawns, and if it's one thing I hate is people who meddle in others' affairs. The Eye of the Moon plan was my idea. Only I or my Naruto will deploy it. No one else. This Madara aspirant must be eliminated, connived Madara darkly. It's been 2 months since that time when Madara was told about the Kiwami attack's instigator. He then told Naruto about hoping to have him become even more loyal to him, and it worked like a charm. Naruto became even more devoted and loyal to Madara, saying that he will kill the fake Madara that caused his life to become hell, for he was the epicenter for all the hatred and loneliness Naruto suffered in his life. It was all because of him, but he would soon have the power to kill him with mutual hatred. But there was one thing missing. The fake Madara was responsible for the attack against the village. He may have even had a hand in the Uchiha massacre, thought Naruto as he was resting from his physical training. It was because of him that the village hates me, but also the Yondaime Hokage had a part to play in that. But the fake Madara may have killed my parents. Zetsu, yelled Naruto. If there was anyone that could find out who his parents were, it was the plant man. Zetsu rose up from the ground. Only his upper body was visible. Yes, Naruto? Asked Zetsu. This was the first time the blonde asked for something from the colored man. I want you to run a DNA test at the Konoha hospital by infiltrating the village to find out who my parents were, spoke Naruto rather quickly. Zetsu was surprised. He never expected something like that. Okay, but first, I will need some of your blood so I can compare it to anyone in the Leaf Village, stated Zetsu. An hour later they began a blood extraction. They watched as the red liquid filled up the small container ready for the test to happen at the hospital. I will be back in a few hours, said the plant thing. It was night in Konoha and all was quiet. Not a single soul was stirring, not even in the hospital. Zetsu morphed from the ground, in the middle of the reception area. Black Zetsu being a powerful sensor, so he could sense the signatures of everyone in the hospital, and it felt nothing in the hospital except for its patients. Do you know Naruto hates hospitals? Stated the white version to the black one. Yes, it simply said. Oh come on. I wanted to surprise you. They made their way to a certain wing in the hospital where they found many things, including operating machines used for scanning DNA and among other things. Ooh, this is a place, right? Asked the white. No shit. They took out the necessary hospital equipment needed for the procedure. Zetsu didn't have fingerprints, so it wouldn't leave behind any. Zetsu typed away on the keyboard that operated the computer. It then compared the DNA results between Naruto and his parents, hoping to find any inkling on who they were. The first picture that came up on a screen was a beautiful red-headed woman with violet eyes and a round face. Ooh, she's pretty, said white Zetsu. This is Naruto's mother. Her name is Kushina Uzumaki. Birthday, July 10th. Blood type, B. Jonin. Status, deceased, stated black Zetsu. Oh poor Naruto. Time for the father, quick, said white Zetsu with glee. The second picture that appeared was a handsome spiky blonde-haired man with blue eyes. White Zetsu was shocked. The Yandame Hokage was Naruto's father. Now it made sense to the artificial human. Of course Yandame would seal the Kawabi within his son. How come they didn't see it before? Minato Namake's birthday, January 25th. Blood type, B. Cage. Status, deceased. Spoke Black Zetsu. Now this is a surprising turn of events. Who should we tell first, Naruto or Madara? Let's tell them both, spoke Black Zetsu. Who can't wait for Naruto's reaction, said White Zetsu. The flytrap man morphed into the ground not before ridding any evidence that it was their butt. Wait, said White Zetsu. There's more. Zetsu eyed this new information that appeared on the computer screen. It was tracing other relatives, but since Naruto's parents didn't have any siblings, it instantly went through grandparents and great-grandparents. What do we have here? Stated the Black Half. The sun was shining brightly over the Konoha Hagakure. The birds were singing, the rivers were flowing, the leaves were dancing in the wind, and two freaks wearing green jumpsuits were shouting about the power of youth. It was one of the now rare few times the sun actually shined, but it still lacked the warmth that came with it. Sakura Haruna was on her way to the Yamanaka flower ship. The village seemed happy, happier than it has ever been. But Sakura, she was just normal. In fact, she wasn't even overjoyed that she was apprenticed to Tsunade. She didn't know why, but hopefully she may find the answer to the question, in time of course. The flower shop was now in sight and she could see her best friend Ino Yamanaka behind the checkout examining her nails for the 17th time that day. Sakura sighed at the image. Some people never change. Ino used to do that when they were younger, all the time. She opened the Yamanaka flower shop door and heard a ring of the doorbell. Ino was broken out of her stupor when her best friend walked in. Hey Sakura, greeted the platinum blonde. Hey Ino, greeted Sakura back. So I heard the news, said Ino, trying to start up a conversation with the pink cat. What news? Asked Sakura. Oh, you know, there's been word that a certain pink-haired genin became the apprentice to the Godame Hokage, Tsunade Senju, spoke Ino in an informative tone. But those have to be rumors, since they never said anything about your massive forehead in it. What you say, Ino pig? Screeched Sakura, flames of feminine fury flickering off her form. You heard what I said, billboard brow, said Ino, grinding her teeth together. Their noses were inches apart and they looked like they were about to tear each other a new one. Until Kiba walked through the door. Hey Sakura. Hey Ino, said Kiba with a happy grin on his face, totally unaware of the raging behemoths in front of him. Get the fuck out, Kiba. They both yelled at the same time as they threw bouquets of flowers at him, which somehow against the laws of physics propelled him out onto the street, a trail of blood flying off his lip and his eyes were wide and white. Kiba felt like a mountain had just hit him while being kicked in the gut by a donkey. Today just wasn't his day. At the same time, Shikamaru walked around the corner and saw Kiba unconscious on the ground, sporting a large bump on his head and a trail of blood at the corner of his lip, and possibly some cracked ribs. When Shikamaru looked to his right, he saw Ino and Sakura arguing, more like screaming like raging banshees and calling each other names. Troublesome, muttered Shikamaru as he stepped over Kiba and continued on his path. Whoever had the thought that women were sensitive creatures by nature must have been stupid at the time. I mean seriously, this is why I don't get my mom mad. She's dangerous enough as it is. But back to Sakura and Ino. You are so lucky, Sakura. I mean, being apprenticed to the Tsunade of the Sannin. Do you know how many women would kill or maim for that position? Commented Ino. I know, but I am not doing this for myself or anybody else, pronounced Sakura. Ino was taken back at what Sakura said. Then why is she doing it? But if not for anybody or yourself, then why? Inquired Ino. Sakura looked down at the ground. Ino got the message that it was incredibly painful to talk about and taboo around her. I'm doing it because of a promise I made, said Sakura sadly, deciding to drop the topic. For now, Ino instead asked a different question involving her best friend. Okay Sakura, what kind of flowers would you like today? Can I get some white roses, please, Ino? Asked Sakura in a sincere voice. White roses, great, the symbol of passion, remembrance, happiness and love. You chose well, forehead, said Ino as she tied a bouquet of white roses together. So who's the lucky guy that's got your eye? Asked Ino, knowing this would be good gossip. Therefore Naruto, said Sakura quietly. Ino gasped a little loudly. She knew she had just treaded on unwanted ground, and with that Sakura left the shop with Ino watching her retreating form. Ino was in the same boat as Sakura. Even though she wasn't close with Naruto, she still regretted all the times she'd make fun of him and punch him. If only she could take them back and tell him how sorry she was. She felt guilty over the fact that she was a bully towards him and her mother encouraged her to bully him, while her father disapproved of it, knowing something she didn't. The walk to the cemetery was quiet and quick. Sakura was on autopilot, her mind preoccupied with everything she wanted to do with her former blonde teammate, but now that would never happen. When she reached the cemetery, she walked over to the Naruto's headstone, but she wasn't the only one that was there. Hinata was standing there as well. Everyone in their academy days could see that Hinata liked Naruto, and somehow Naruto was so dense that he never noticed. Sakura walked up to the tombstone and laid the white roses in front of it. Hinata didn't seem to acknowledge her presence. When Hinata had heard that Naruto died, she didn't cry, she didn't vent her frustrations, she didn't blame anyone, she just became detached from everyone. A few minutes of silence. Hinata left the cemetery, maybe to give Sakura some alone time or just because she wanted to. Deciding that now that they were perfectly alone, Sakura said what was on her mind. "Hey Naruto-kun," she started off. "I came to visit again and I brought flowers." Ino says hello. She smiled, thinking of the memories she had with the blonde. "I went to Tsunade-sama today and I asked if she could take me on as her student and she said yes. I'm going to mainly be training in medical ninjutsu and possibly Tsunade-sama's incredible strength. I want you to know that I'll visit once every week if I can, so we can just talk, you know." She giggled for a second. "I really miss you. I miss your smile, that atrocious jumpsuit you always wore. I miss your competitive rivalry with Sasuke. I miss that loud voice of yours." She smiled as she lifted off some of the qualities Naruto had. "Just so you know, I'm sorry how I treated you. I never really bothered to get to know you, though now I wish I had." She was looking for more words to say, but she was running out of words to say. "I'll come by again next week, okay? Bye Naruto," she said. She turned and left the cemetery slowly, but not before sparing a glance at the headstone with a melancholic look. But she didn't notice Kakashi standing a bit away. He watched everything, and now he had even more regrets. He felt like it was because of him that Naruto won't be living life with someone that loved him. He also possibly stopped a future life ever growing in the future. And if he could rank his regrets, Naruto's death was one of Kakashi's greatest. He walked up to the headstone and just stared at it impassively, no thoughts running through his head. He was standing there for hours on end, unflinching and silent, not even thinking except for the memories of his time with the sensei's son. Believing he had spent enough time at the cemetery, he walked away saying a silent prayer for his student until he was shaken from his thoughts by a loud voice. "Kakashi, my eternal rival, today we must bathe in the springtime of your youth," roared an enthusiastic voice. It seems he was going to do another of Guy's challenges today. His shoulders slumped in depression. He was going to be hounded by Guy until he did one of his challenges. Again, Tsunade was sitting behind her desk doing the bane of all cages, paperwork. She opened her drawer and took out a bottle of sake that she got for herself. Even though she would get a tongue lashing from Shizune for drinking on the job, it didn't matter since she wanted alcohol and it was her favorite pastime. Besides, she could handle Shizune and her wicked tongue anytime. She took a swig of the alcohol and bent back in her chair, enjoying the position and the taste of the liquid in her mouth. There was nothing that could break the peace and quiet she was having now. Everyone's emotional wounds seemed to have healed after her favorite blonde's passing, but there was still some that were bleeding. She took another swig when suddenly one of her ANBU agents appeared kneeling in front of her, causing her to spit out her drink. "Hokage-sama, there was a breach in security of the village less than 24 hours ago," informed the ANBU. "What?" she yelled, and she regained her composure shortly after that. "How did this happen?" she demanded. "Less than half an hour ago, a Chunin stationed at the hospital searched over the video recordings last night and he found the intruder on the video strolling through the hospital. This person was wearing a black cloak, emblazoned with red clouds," continued the ANBU agent. "Akatsuki, but what would they want with the hospital?" she thought. "Bird, was there anything else that the camera feeds picked up?" The ANBU agent, now identified as Bird, nodded. "After the Chunin reported the disturbance to the ANBU, a team was sent over to study what was found. But what we found should only be for your eyes only, Hokage-sama," said Bird. Tsunade thought over what she would need to do. "Get me Shizune, Shikaku, Kakashi and Jiraiya, knowing the pervert he could be at the hot springs," ordered Tsunade. "At once," said Bird as he disappeared in a whirlwind of leaves. Tsunade got up behind her desk and started walking to the hospital. When she arrived, there was already a team of ANBU members waiting for her. They bowed in respect and took her to the security room where all the tapes at the hospital were made. When she entered the room, Shizune was already waiting for her. with her master's pet pig Tantan in her arms along with Shikaku Nara, who gave her a nod, though she expected Kakashi to be late. But Jiraiya wasn't here, until the door opened behind her and trotted in Jiraiya with a serious expression carved into his visage. "Okay Haim, what was so important that it had to interrupt my research?" asked Jiraiya, a little peeved at the situation. Tsunade gained a tick mark on her forehead at the pervert's words. Even after Naruto's death he was still focused on writing those perverted trash. The village had been infiltrated during the night. "We're soon going to look at the footage, but I want Kakashi here for this," said Tsunade as her annoyance over the Toad Sennin faded. Jiraiya, Shizune and Shikaku were surprised and worried. Kono Hagakure was one of the most difficult places to sneak into. It was just as hard to get into like a Megakure and their security. You needed to be a master of stealth just to get past the sensory barrier that surrounded Konoha, but to freely walk in with a black cloak with red clouds on it without drawing attention to yourself was near impossible. When Itachi Uchiha and Kisame Hoshigaki entered the village looking for Naruto, that was different. Itachi was a former Konoha ANBU captain, so of course he knew of the village's defenses and the way to get around them, and Kisame had assassinated other countries' daimyos and gotten away, so he at least was an expert at stealth. An hour passed and yet Kakashi had yet to arrive. Tsunade gained a tick mark at his tardiness. Another hour passed and Tsunade had gotten another tick mark at Kakashi being 2 hours late. By the time of the third hour had passed, Tsunade now had 3 tick marks on her face, which was throbbing wildly, and boy was she pissed. The door opened to reveal Kakashi reading that stupid orange smut he read. He greeted the 3 others in the room with a casual yo and I smile, but instead of a hello back he got a punch in the face by Tsunade. Lucky for him it wasn't chakra infused. Kakashi got up off the floor and dusted himself off, but was still surprised that Tsunade just attacked high out of the blue. "Now that we are all here, let's get Kakashi up to speed," said Jiraiya, trying to defuse the situation since things had been tense between the two Sannin and Kakashi. Jiraiya cleared his throat and spoke to Kakashi, since it was better if he did it and not Tsunade. Over the night the Leaf Village was infiltrated by an unknown assailant. Who they are and how they got in still remains a mystery, as they penetrated through the sensory barrier with relative ease. However, they weren't really careful when they arrived here at the hospital where we caught them on the building's video surveillance, but what we do know is that the assailant was wearing a black cloak with red clouds. They now had Kakashi's full attention. If it was anything concerning the Akatsuki, it wasn't good. Shizune tapped a few buttons on the keyboard, activated the monitor and selected the recorded tape. When the image came to life, the first thing they saw was the reception area. Then what looked like a Venus flytrap-like thing started morphing from the ground and then became a full body, and as clear as day they could see the black cloak with the red clouds. "The Chunin was right, it is the Akatsuki," said Shizune. Tantan oinked worriedly. "But what could the Akatsuki want with this hospital?" "There's nothing special about it," spoke Shizune, getting an oink of agreement from Tantan. "But they already accessed the village when they were looking for Naruto. But those were Itachi and that other ninja Kisame. Why would another Akatsuki agent come here again? And there's something not right here," stated Shikaku. All eyes were on him, even the pigs. "From what the information tells us that Jiraiya-sama was able to conjure up is that the Akatsuki work in pairs. So where's his partner?" said Shikaku as he gestured toward Zetsu on the screen. "This is starting to get more confusing by the second. None of this information gives us something to go on, but Shizune's right. Why the hospital?" said Tsunade as she rubbed her temple. "Maybe it's not the hospital that interests them," spoke Kakashi, getting everyone's attention. He was about to speak again before a new voice made itself known. "Maybe it has nothing to do with the hospital at all, or whatever they need to do is within the building." Everyone in the room turned their attention toward the door when after a second scowls started sprouting. Before the doorway was an old man with black spiky hair, covered in bandages mainly in areas such as his right eye and right arm, leaning on a cane. "Danzo," growled Jiraiya. The darkness of the shinobi was standing before everyone, his impassive face unreadable. Along with him were the Hokage's 2 other advisors, Homura Mitakato and Koharu Yutatan. "What are you doing here?" asked Shikaku. Anyone could see that his body was tense, but it was always tense around Danzo. "We received a message that the village had been infiltrated by an agent of the Akatsuki," stated Homura. "Is this true, Tsunade?" asked Koharu. "Yes," answered Tsunade, her unease and annoyance just rippling off her. "Then you have also yet made another lapse of judgment on the security of Konoha," spoke Danzo. The scowls just got a whole lot bigger. "First, The Sharingan abandons the village and not a day after we lose our weapon the Jinchuriki and now a wanted group of missing ninja are now able to waltz freely from within and out our village. Those circumstances were not her fault, defended Shikaku. It was the Uchiha's own choice to leave the village and it was his choice to kill Naruto and we have no idea about the capabilities of the rest of the Akatsuki. Danzo didn't seem fazed but he knew this was not a battle he could win at the moment. All the 7 people in the room turned their attention back to the screen where the plant thing opened up to reveal a man, one half completely black and the other white with green hair. Peculiar, said Homura. This person's appearance was strange to say the least, but being half-colored was not the weirdest to Homura, it was the fly-trap-like appendage. They watched as the black and white man walked through the hospital to a certain wing. When he arrived, Shizune and Tsunade instantly recognized it as the room where all the blood tests and all other things concerning blood is performed. Then the plant thing took out a small vial of red liquid and scanned its contents into the monitor, and what appeared next made everyone freeze. It was a picture of Kushina Uzumaki, the red-hot-blooded habanero. They were unable to hear anything the person was saying because the video doesn't record sound. They paused the monitor again and decided to have a chat. Why would the Akatsuki be interested in Kushina? She's dead, inquired Jiraiya. Maybe it had to be the fact that she was the former Jinchuriki of the Kiwabi, answered Shikaku. Shikaku was later given knowledge of this as the village's head Jonin and Tsunade also knew, of course, being the Hokugin alter informed Jiraiya and Shizune. No, it's something else. But what? Said Tsunade as she bit her finger. They continued to play the tape where they saw something else that shocked them. An image of Minato Namikaze appeared on the screen. Okay, that's it, I give up. What do the Akatsuki want with dead people? Yelled Tsunade. The pieces of the puzzle were not fitting together. None of this made any sense. Tsunade studied the image of her predecessor and Jiraiya's former student. It was amazing how no one figured out that Naruto was Minato's son. I mean, come on. The kid was a younger clone of the man. That's it, Naruto. Jiraiya, Kakashi, do you think this has some connection to Naruto? Asked Tsunade. No, nothing comes to mind. Naruto was dead. I don't see why the Akatsuki are interested with him now since the Kiwabi's chakra has dispersed, responded Kakashi. Same here, Haim, but I don't see why the Akatsuki would care about Naruto's parentage. They wouldn't care if he was Kami's kid. This doesn't make any sense, said Jiraiya as he rubbed his hand through his hair. They watched the rest of the recording and they were back to square one. In fact, watching the video it just made things even more confusing. Questions needed to be answered but the only people who had the answers were the Akatsuki. With confusing thoughts in their minds, all the occupants in the room left, except Jiraiya, who kept staring at the monitor in front of him. Why Minato and Kushina? What do they have to do with anything the Akatsuki planned? At Myobakuzen, the Great Toad Sage was pondering whether to tell Jiraiya that Naruto was still alive. He had argued with himself for hours whether or not to tell him, but in his prophecy he said that either a savior or destroyer would come about in the world. But it was not his place to decide such things. In the end he decided to withhold the information from Jiraiya until it was truly necessary. He would just observing all creation, watching as nature takes its course. But he would tell Jiraiya of the new news he had received, something which would ultimately decide the course the world will take. Hey ya old geezer, wake up, yelled Shima, a Toad Sage of Myobakuzen. M.A. You shouldn't call the Honorable Sage such a disrespectful title, berated Fukasaku, another sage of the Maze Mountain. Shut up, ya old fart. We've been sitting here for hours and now dinner is all cold. It's not easy being a housewife, ya know, yelled Shima. Stop calling me an old fart, ya dusty bag. And who cares about dinner? Bit back Fukasaku. I care, since I'm the one doing thaw cooking. Both old toads started arguing, gaining the Honorable Sage's attention. Now spouses shouldn't fight, said the elder. The two small toads looked back at the elder, waiting for what he was going to say. Please summon Jiraiya here as soon as you can. There is something I must tell him. The two toads were astonished. The old toad wanted to speak to Jiraiya again. Fukasaku then did the appropriate hand signs for a reverse summoning. Yakuka Kyos no Jutsu, yelled Fukasaku as he slammed his hand down on the ground where multiple symbols appeared on the ground. Smoke appeared and it revealed the form of Jiraiya. The Sannin was flabbergasted. He never expected to be back at Myobakuzen. Fukasaku-sama? Asked Jiraiya. Jiraiya-chan, the Great Lord Elder wishes to speak with you, said Fukasaku. Jiraiya turned and faced the Great Elder. Will ya hurry up, I wanted to have dinner, shouted Shima. Her annoyance was very well known at this point. Now that we are here. Who are you again? Said the elder. Everyone seemed to deflate at this. Jiraiya. Jiraiya, yelled Shima. She wanted to get this over with and go and make dinner. "Ah yes, Jiraiya, I have summoned you here because I have had another vision." "Another prophecy," said the sage. "What was in your vision?" asked Jiraiya. "If another vision had been made, it was either good or bad. In my dream, I saw a great beast, a foul creature. It created countries, swallowed oceans, split the land, carried mountains, and with its breath spawned hurricanes. And its mere presence alone will immerse the world in terror, and yet this creature is a part of nature and nature is a part of it," spoke the sage. Jiraiya was scared. This beast didn't sound all that nice to him. "This beast will come to our world soon, and with it probably our destruction. It is the harbinger of the end days. When you hear its howl, you will know that it has come," spoke the elder sage. This seemed to depress everyone else in the room. That was not a good way to start a prophecy. "However, there was someone else in my dream," continued the elder sage. "Who?" asked Jiraiya carefully. "He needed to find this person and possibly save the world." "I cannot say. This being was clouded from me," answered the sage. "But this person was forged from darkness and fire, bears the scars of the winds of war and the tides of sorrow hammer against him. He carries the hatred of 1,000 men and the love of none. He holds up the pillars of the earth, and his power sparks hope and fear in the world. He will rise and subjugate the beast." Jiraiya gained some relief of who the sage described, but that one word seemed to awaken something in Jiraiya. "When he does enslave the beast, he will either bring salvation or despair, depending on which path he takes," spoke the sage. It opened its eyes and examined Jiraiya. "To unearth this person, you must stare into the eyes of the abyss and shadows, and it will find you." "Is that it?" asked Jiraiya. "Yes, that is it," spoke the sage. "But Jiraiya, this person may be an even greater threat than the beast." With those words, Jiraiya was sent back to where he was summoned. Jiraiya found himself in the Hokage's office. His sudden reappearance startled Tsunade. "Jiraiya, what happened? Where did you go?" shouted Tsunade. Jiraiya cowered under the glare. He then started to tell her everything the sage told him about the great beast and the person of fire. "A great beast that swallows oceans and a man that bears the scars of the winds of war." Tsunade was baffled. "Jiraiya, do you think this beast is the Kyuubi?" asked Tsunade. "No, I don't think so, Haim. I believe that this beast is even a greater threat than the Kyuubi," answered Jiraiya. "And what of this mysterious person?" "The one with eyes like the abyss," said Tsunade. "I don't know, Haim. This is all that I was given. I'm just as perplexed as you are," said Jiraiya. "But there was something that the elder warned me about," said Jiraiya, gaining Tsunade's attention. "He said that this person may be an even greater threat than the beast," spoke Jiraiya with a grim voice. They both sat in the room while silence reigned over them. At dark, the dark hovel with Madara and Naruto. Madara was having a nap. Since he's old, Naruto was resting, sleeping soundly, until Madara got up and whacked him over his head with the blunt side of his Kusarigama. "Oh, what was that for?" asked Naruto. "We are now going to begin the first part of your true training, Naruto. We are going to begin elemental manipulation," explained Madara. This got Naruto excited because he was fed up with all the physical exercises. "I believe that your physical body had adjusted well to all the exercises." Naruto got up and took off his black vest, and he was right. Naruto was now well built. He wasn't overly muscular, and yet he wasn't skinny as a twig, and he was lean and fit. A perfect combination. Then Madara finally took notice of the necklace around Naruto's neck. It had a green crystal in the middle with 2 accessories on either side. Madara had seen that necklace before. "Naruto," said Madara. Naruto turned to his sensei after putting his black vest back on. "Where did you get that necklace?" asked Madara. Naruto looked down and saw the necklace hanging by his neck. "I won it in a bet from the old woman who hides behind a genjutsu to make herself look young," answered Naruto. "Tell me, I wish to know. Did that necklace belong to the first Hokage?" inquired Madara. Yeah, it did," answered Naruto confusedly. Madara didn't respond, but he was thinking of something that could work. "Doesn't matter, Naruto, since we have discovered that you have 3 chakra natures, all of which are natural. We are going to start with the one I am most familiar with, fire release." The ancient Uchiha tapped his cane scythe and out came some random white Zetsu. The white Zetsu kneeled in front of Madara like a loyal dog that obeyed any order. The old Uchiha lifted his Kusarigama and channeled chakra into it and decapitated the head of the white Zetsu, and then it turned into a tree. These Zetsus are basically clones made of the first Hokage's DNA. I channeled my yang chakra through my scythe and used the Hin no Jutsu flying swallow jutsu simultaneously. That's why this dead Zetsu turned into a tree when it came in contact with my yang chakra. I don't understand, said Naruto. But Madara expected this. I will explain. There are two types of chakra in this world that people can utilize. Yin chakra and yang chakra, said Madara. Yin chakra is making imagination into reality and is the spiritual energy that is talked about, while yang chakra is breathing life into form and it is the physical energy. I see. So when you killed the clone, you breathed life into it, then it became a tree, said Naruto. Exactly, my young apprentice. But let's get back to the original reason why I killed this Zetsu. Madara plucked a leaf from one of its branches and held it between his fingers. In order to strengthen your fire jutsus, you must be able to take fire manipulation to the highest level. In order to do this, you must be able to convert a certain amount of chakra into fire, and burn this leaf fully. Madara then plucked 2 more leaves. For wind and lightning you must do the same, however each element has different personalities, you could say, for usually our chakra nature is taken right out of our general personalities. So what is the personalities of fire, wind and lightning? Asked Naruto. For fire, imagine your chakra as a ball, then compress the ball and release all that energy at once. Although I don't have lightning nature, I can still teach it to you. For lightning, imagine your chakra as fast streaks arcing about at irregular intervals. And for wind, cut your chakra in 2 and then grind them together like sharpening a blade. You're quite lucky, Naruto. Why? Asked Naruto. The 3 natures we have talked about happen to be the most offensive and combative elements of the 5 basic natures, explained Madara. He coughed a little after the sentence. Zetsu calls them the triple threat. But won't I need to learn any defensive jutsus? Questioned Naruto. That's why we have the Susanoo, clarified Madara. Susanoo? Said Naruto. It's when you use both the Amaterasu and the Tsukuyomi at the same time, creating the perfect defense, spoke Madara. Now start you fire manipulation training, or do you require some more discipline? Naruto nodded and he was about to start training when Zetsu appeared between the two. Zetsu? Said Madara curiously. Hello. This is great, you two are taking your nap, so now we can tell each other what we have discovered, said White Zetsu happily. Spit it out already, snapped Madara angrily. While Naruto's thoughts on his master was, is this guy bipolar? What we have discovered is quite entertaining, said Zetsu. Zetsu took out 2 folders from within his robe and handed one to Naruto. Naruto opened the folder to see a beautiful red-haired woman with amazing violet eyes. Who is she? Asked Naruto. This woman was amazingly beautiful. That is your mother, Kushina Uzumaki, said Zetsu. Naruto gasped and his eyes widened. Now that he looked at the folder, he could see some resemblance between them, such as the shape of their faces and the shape of their eyes. There's more. Once we infiltrated the hospital, I allowed myself to be viewed by the security surveillance, where later the Hokage and several high-ranking shinobi went to watch the tape. And I discovered something. This gained Naruto's attention. It turns out that your mother was the Jinchuriki of the Kiwabi before you. It seems to explain a lot of things, said Madara now that he thought about it. Maybe when your mother was carrying you within her womb, you subconsciously absorbed or inherited some of the Kiwabi's chakra, resulting in those whisker marks, continued Madara. This could present ourselves with an opportunity to fuel the Jado Mazo with the Kiwabi's chakra, yet it could cause you to lose your startling recuperative powers and other powers you inherited. Naruto was absorbing everything. His mother was the container of the Kiwabi before him, and they now had the chance to further the Eye of the Moon plan, but at the cost of all the powers the Kiwabi gave him. And from what the folder said, his mother was dead. Yes, but that is not the most surprising thing, spoke Zetsu, cutting everyone off from their thoughts. It's who your father is that's the most surprising. Zetsu then handed Naruto the other folder he had. Naruto took the folder and opened it up, where he received the shock of his life. There right in the folder was a picture of the Yondaime Hokage, Minato Namikaze. Is this my? Said Naruto with a cold tone of voice. Yes, answered Zetsu. Naruto stared at the picture of his father. So many feelings running through him, but mainly anger, rage, animosity and hatred. Madara was watching his student carefully. He then turned his gaze upon 4 more folders within the plant man's hands. Back to Naruto. Without even knowing, Naruto channeled chakra to his right eye, where the pattern of his Mangekyo took shape. His 3-pointed scythe pattern appeared in his eyes. Whenever Madara saw those eyes, the air would become denser and the light would become darker. His left eye started to bleed as he performed the first of his Mangekyo's abilities. Amaterasu, whispered Naruto. Instantly the folder of his father was set ablaze by the black flames being reduced to ashes in seconds. Naruto was angry. His rage was consuming him. His own father was the one that condemned him to a life of misery and loneliness in the Sandaime. Hokage said that he didn't know who his parents were, that he found him in a forest, but he lied. He lied right to his face. He knew all along. Jiraiya, he knew, of course he knew. Kakashi as well, he must have known, and Tsunade was in on the loop too. He should have seen it sooner. All the attention that Jiraiya and Sarutobi gave him, they wouldn't care about some random orphan, they would care about the son of the Yondaime and the Kiwabi container. They all knew. The Sandaime, Jiraiya, Kakashi, Tsunade. They all knew, but they kept it from me. They kept the identity of the people most important to me, thought Naruto. Then he screamed at the top of his lungs, letting out all his anguish, and yet he unconsciously activated both Mangekyo. A white skeletal ribcage started to form around him, protecting him like armor. Then 4 white skeletal arms grew, tied together by bolts, and finally came the head of Naruto's Susanoo. Naruto's Susanoo was completely white in color. It had 4 skeletal arms and its ribcage had 4 horizontal, curved spikes on each rib. Its skull had 4 glowing yellow eyes and 2 forward-facing bull horns along with sharp fang-like teeth. After Naruto had stopped screaming, he examined his Susanoo, and he was impressed. Before he looked at Madara, his teacher. I am the curse of hatred, said Naruto grimly and with a dark look in his eye, which was only enhanced by the Susanoo surrounding him. Then his Susanoo roared as well, howling like a wolf. Madara just smirked. He now had the blonde's full loyalty and devotion, and his Susanoo was rather impressive as well. Zetsu, commanded Madara, still with that unrestrained smirk. Zetsu jumped a little at Madara's tone. Get ready to transplant my eyes, ordered Madara. Yes, both have said at the same time. I leave my legacy to you, Naruto, and when the time is right I will repay you for your aid someday, thought Madara. That's the end of this part. If you want the next part, make sure to comment down below. This is Hiration signing off.